Hi guys, I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to be telling you about 11 study abroad tips that I learned while studying abroad in France. So tip number 1 is don't always study in your room. I found that there were so many awesome places in my city that I didn't get to explore as much because I was studying. So combining studying in parks or studying in your local libraries to meet new people is a really cool way to get that study abroad experience while also actually studying. So tip number 2 is for when you're traveling and you're in hostels, make sure to have these essentials. You need an eye mask, a washcloth, some flip-flops, and something to deodorize your room. So for me, I have this little spray bottle that is filled with water and a couple drops of essential oils. And I'll spray this on all the fabrics in the hostel and also the air, because once I had a 6-person mixed room with 4 guys and 2 girls, and as you can kind of guess, it was very smelly. So I found that this is a lifesaver, and especially if you have clothes that you don't want to wash or just need a little freshening up. If you put a couple drops of lavender in this and spray it, you'll be good to go. Tip number 3 is to arrive to your host city about 3 or 4 days before you need to be completely human. I did not do this, and I arrived the night before of my orientation, which was at 9 a.m., and I arrived at 5 p.m. to my host city. So my landlord had to walk me through all of my things of my apartment in French after I had been traveling for around 30 hours. And let's just say I didn't make it to orientation on time. I got there about half an hour late because I couldn't figure out the buses. So give yourself enough time to get all your essentials, toilet paper, food. I had some weird vegetable soup my first day, which was the only thing that I could find in the market across from my apartment, and I would not recommend going to orientation on soup. I actually had to steal some corn nuts from the only girl I knew. Shout out to Zoe. Thank you for letting me steal your corn nuts. So tip number 4 is to try to plan your trips at least a month in advance. I found this is a perfect amount of time to get a group of people together and to figure out really where you want to go, but also being cautious of all the prices. Flights in Europe especially are pretty cheap even to the last minute. For me, I had classes on Saturdays and makeup tests on Saturdays, so I found that traveling, I needed to have that window where professors could still redo classes, but I also could have enough time to plan those trips. It's really important not to go in with all of your trips planned, because then you wouldn't want to go with your new friends. But also, it is important to not wait until the week before, because then prices will be insane. No one wants to plan a trip the week before they go. Tip number 5 is to take the amount of money that you think you will need abroad and double it. I'm telling you, I did not budget at all, which was a very dumb move. I ended up spending all of the money that I brought. And study abroad really isn't, or it doesn't have to be expensive like people say. There are destinations that you can go and study abroad that will be cheaper than your home university. In France, it was actually cheaper tuition and housing wise to be in France that semester, but it was the extra traveling I did that made the cost not pleasant. But that's also because I didn't plan very much. So I think if I would have come in with a budget and then revised that budget, it would have been a lot better, and I would have got more out of my trips and of my money. Also, if you are going to France, €1 for a pain au chocolat every morning doesn't seem like a lot, but then you realize you're there for 4 months and you're addicted, and just be careful. Tip number 6 is to travel later in the semester if possible. As I was making friends throughout the semester and it was warming up, I wanted to travel more, but I ended up not traveling at all in the month of April because I had done all my traveling and all my expenses in February and March. I couldn't justify going in that perfect weather with all my new friends. That was a bummer. So try to travel later in the semester. You can plan things more. There's no rush really. Or even try to travel before you get to your destination, or a little bit after you leave. So my classes ended in the first week of May, and I ended up traveling until the 1st of June. And it was really cool to have that time to plan that trip that I really wanted to take, because I'd always wanted to solo travel and solo travel in France. So I really got to plan exactly where I wanted to go, but I could only do that because I chose to travel later in the semester for my biggest trips. Number 7 is to try to live with locals if you have the option. For me, I went to France to learn French, and I barely spoke it. I spoke it a lot while I was traveling and in my city, but other than that, all my friends were North American or English speaking, so I didn't get a chance to really get that French immersion that I could have if I lived in a host family. My friend who chose to live in a host family, Nicole, is best friends for life with her host family, and she said she doesn't regret it one bit. The biggest caution I had with living in a host family is not having enough time to myself and really not being able to go the places I wanted because I had to spend time with my host family. Having that structure would have been a lot better for me, and that sense of community and connection to the host city that I lived in. It wasn't until the end of my study abroad experience that I actually even met someone from my host city. Along with tip number 7, try to meet as many local people as you can. I found that this is the best way to really immerse with your host city and really get the experience that you want out of traveling and studying in a different place. Tip number 8 is to go into your study abroad experience finding about 3 places that you really want to visit and be open to the rest. There's so many places in the world that I really didn't even consider traveling to until my friends pointed them out. One of those being Amsterdam, which is such a lovely city that I really wouldn't have experienced if not for my friend who convinced me to go. One of the best things about study abroad is you have all these choices that you can make, but it's kind of stressful. So make sure you have a little bit of planning, but also keep your mind open. The next tip is to check the App Store to see if there are any apps for the places that you're going to. Especially big cities, they have apps for things to do, things to see, for the public transportation, and these are really lifesavers and time savers for the main things that you want to do. For every city that I went to, I downloaded the transportation app, which in Nice, this actually saved me a lot of money because I got the €5 all-day bus pass, and I ended up using the bus about 10 times that day. If you're ever in Nice, there's this part of the bus where you can go to the top of the mountain and you can see the view of the entire city. And if you have the €5 pass, I mean, you can't get much better than that. The last tip, and probably one of the most important, is always know how to get from your transportation to your accommodation. There are several times where I would get off my bus or my train and I had no clue where I was going. And you do not want to be that tourist who's sitting there with their iPad out or phone out trying to figure out where the heck you go in a brand new city. You can always go to the info desk, which I found are really nice, but if you don't speak the language and it's a smaller city, that might be kind of difficult. Again, on my first day, which arguably was not the best, but also a very good learning lesson, I got to the train station in my host city and had no clue, had no phone reception, I was tired. I knew that my apartment was about 5 minutes walk from the train station, but I didn't know in which direction. I asked someone and they pointed me in one direction, and then I went that direction and then asked someone else who pointed me in another direction. And then I ended up going back to the train station and finding a map of the city and realizing it was literally 1 minute in the other direction. Just make sure that you know where exactly you're going. It'll save you a ton of time and headaches, and you'll feel like an accomplished adult. So thanks for watching my video, and I really hope that these tips were helpful in some way, and if you have any other questions, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be talking about travel, sustainability, and of course fashion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.